Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TechDad Impact. My name is Chris, and finally, I've decided to take the time to make a video. This is going to be obviously about the game project that I've been working on for the past year and a half almost now. And I've been using the Godot engine basically to design and code and make the game I call Super AxeType. Now, the game doesn't really have a name, right? It's just a project. Anyway, it's been a while since I had the opportunity to make a video. There's a very good reason for it. And the reason is that the year 2026 has been a complete and utter bitch. It's been kicking my ass left and right, and it's been really difficult to try and focus and, get things done. And for a while, I was really just depressed about the fact that I hadn't been able to get more done with the game project that I really wanted to until I really started looking, really just take count of all the things that I've managed to put together. And I'm going to kind of outline them here and talk about them specifically because I feel like these might be quite interesting and informative for people who are starting their own game projects. And so these are things for you to look forward to. You brave and foolish would-be game developers who are willing to brave through the badlands of game development. I salute you. Welcome to my video. Now let's get to it. So what does this mean? When I started making a new gameplay project, I was kind of like running all over the place, creating new kinds of features and functions here and there. And every time I discovered something that I felt was fun or creative, I obviously implemented that into my gameplay experience and then ran on to the next thing and tried to create it as fast as possible because, the faster you work, the sooner you get your game done. The benefit is that you're going to be able to discover or test out ideas very rapidly, which Godot is very good at. You should keep in mind, though, that the functions or the systems that you're building, they need to be reliable and they need to be able to work in multiple different kinds of environments with multiple different kinds of objects like enemies and, maybe your bullets, weapons, armor, whatnot. And so whatever it is that you're creating, it has to be interoperable with the world that you're also creating. See, my problem was that I thought that my features were working just because I tested them out a few times and, they were fun to play around with. As I kept developing new enemy types and creating new kinds of modifiers to, use as a weapon against these enemy types, what I had forgotten to do was systemize the way that enemies take damage. The thing is, there's tons of different ways of doing that in Godot, and the method that you should adapt to your gameplay depends very much on the kind of game you're making. For me, it was just super important to be able to shoot at the enemies as quick as possible and then, watch them explode into pieces. In time, however, what I discovered was that I've created quite a few enemy types with different kinds of root nodes, like character body 2Ds, area 2Ds, even static body 2Ds. And there was no consistency in how these enemies worked, because the fact of the matter is that they did have these shared common traits that should have been very similar to one another, like how they take damage. So by the time I'm creating my mini boss, and my mini boss is actually quite a complex enemy type with different kinds of area 2Ds for absorbing damage or taking damage, none of my systems would work once I started fixing the way that I approached damaging enemies with the mini boss. I made some changes to my bullet logic. I made some simple changes to the way that damage is distributed. And suddenly, I now had a whole bunch of enemy types that wouldn't even register the bullets that got fired at them. Some of my enemy types would get double damage if I shot at them, and some of the modifiers would stop hitting enemies. And so basically what I had in my hands was a hot mess. And I needed to kick the brakes and start investigating the code and look at the stuff that was breaking up. Now luckily, shoot 'em ups are not necessarily that complex. The logic or the ideas are quite simple. And so I had to go through a lot of the code that I had written and try and figure out what the hell I was thinking when I was doing that, because it seemed like I was coked out of my mind. But it just turns out that in this state of excitement, I was creating new enemy types. I was testing out new ways of kind of like creating them. That's why I had some of the character body 2D root nodes and some of the enemy types, because I was trying out, movements and physics and stuff like that. They aren't really necessary to my gameplay experience, so I just changed the nodes around, made them all area 2Ds where it made sense. And so this other thing that I decided to do was create a hurt box that would be same for most enemy types. A hurt box that exclusively register shots that you made at them and just basically let your root node know that you've been damaged. Instead of having dozens of different kinds of scripts for that, I just had one generalized script for the enemy types being hurt. And even at that point, like, the script wasn't hurting them. The function existed within the root node of the enemy type. That hitbox or hurtbox was merely registering that it's being shot at and then letting the root node take over the take damage function. And so fairly quickly, I fixed all the issues and I could move on to fixing other problems. For one, I needed to optimize my bullet logic a little bit and make sure what kinds of bullets would have bullet pools. I feel like in today's hardware, like, these bullet pools aren't necessarily that necessary unless you literally have hundreds or thousands of bullets flying across the screen. Now, I would like to have that happen in the game at some point. It's not going to be in the very beginning though. And I do feel like some enemy types, they're not going to be firing so frequently as to fill the screen with bullets. And so right now, the most important aspect is that my player ship has a bullet pool system, and all the modifiers that are, rapid firing systems, they have their own bullet pool systems as well. Then I also had to go and fix colliders with my hazards, level hazards that aren't really enemies. They're more like static objects that you collide against but can't fly through. And so there were some inconsistencies there as well. And so what I did was just kind of look at all the different objects that I've created, or scenes, call them scenes in Godot, and made sure that they all shared a similar hierarchy, so it'd be, very readable and easy to understand what was going on with these guys. And if there was ever an issue, it would just make it that much easier to recognize what was going wrong. Let's move on to the next point that I really want to talk about. Oftentimes, when you sit down and you work on a game project, you feel like you need to sit there at least for like 3 to, 6 hours to get anything really done. And that's how it feels like sometimes, because if you're working on with a complex enemy type or a lot of different things that need to get done, it can actually take quite a bit of time to get those working properly. But the fact of the matter is that I've actually made strides working like half an hour here and there. Like, I have a full-time job, but my full-time job is such that, I'm not always dealing with customers. And so I take my laptop with me, and when I do that, I have an opportunity to actually develop my game when it's completely quiet and nobody's around, right? Even now that I'm, making this recording, it kind of sounds weird because I'm just using the MacBook Air's internal microphone, and so it's not as good quality as a regular microphone. But this is the time that I actually get to do this, and I'm freaking taking that time, because when I go home, I'm going to be tired. There's going to be the kids. I need to make food and all that other stuff. So I'm probably not going to have the energy to actually sit down and do this thing. So what I'm saying is, appreciate the time. Use the time that you have at hand. You can actually get stuff done, even if it's half an hour that you're going to be working on. Just pick up something small that you can do. Those things add up. And, in my opinion, you can take one of those fundamental building blocks of your gameplay loop and work on the smallest little particle of issue that you can. Because every time you squat one bug or you get one function done that works appropriately, it's a victory for you. And I think as a game developer, you need to see those victories. Like I told you guys before, I was getting depressed because I feel like I'm getting left behind. I feel like I had these goals that I set up for myself and I hadn't gotten so much done. But now that I look actually back at all the stuff that I've done, there's quite a few enemy types, there's all these small under the hood improvements to the gameplay that I've made that are absolutely necessary and need to be there. And I've just managed to find time here and there to do it. So yeah, I wish I was further along, no doubt. But at the same time, I can't complain, like, considering what the situation is in my life right now. I'm kind of grateful that I've even gotten this far. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, guys, you got to talk about your game. That's just what it is. Like, I know people who are graphics artists or game designers or whatnot, the last thing they want to do is go and promote their game or the project that they're working on. And look, I get it. Like, we're so aware of the insufficiencies of the game project itself. We see all the warts. People aren't interested in that. As a matter of fact, I feel like people are interested in seeing how things become the thing that they are, right? They're not complete yet. They're not done. But it's cool to see stuff grow. It becomes alive for people, I feel like. And in that sense, it's super important that you take the habit of talking about your game project to other people, because guess what? They'll give you insights. Sometimes people not interested in games at all might look at your game and be like, well, that's kind of strange. Why does that do that? That's insight, guys. People generally, those who are not very much tied into your projects, they'll be able to see the stuff that you've become blinded to. So looking for advice sometimes doesn't hurt, even if it's from people who don't really know that much about game design, but could potentially be people who would like to play your game. And so in that sense, you know, it's fine, and you should take the habit of talking about your game and sharing it with others, especially the internet. You know, it's your oyster. You should go there and you should let people know what you're working on. And then basically just share your insights into why this is something you want to do. Finally, I guess I'll show you guys my kamikaze modifier. This is one of the things that I mentioned in the last video that I wanted to get done. I got a lot more stuff actually done, but I'm going to demonstrate this because it actually took quite a while to do when I thought it would be a quick thing to do. It's partly because it helped me create or enhance some of the gameplay systems that already existed but weren't modular enough. And so now I've actually created an effects thing, a display effects node that's going to be global, and it's going to be used like in every level. And there's going to be specific kinds of effects for specific kinds of things. And I hadn't really thought of that at all, but it came to me while I was developing this kamikaze Nuke modifier called Divine East Wind. And so this is how it works. The Divine East Wind is basically this thermonuclear explosion or whatever, a massive explosion that the ship can do. The problem with it is that it's going to hurt you. So when you use it, you lose 1 health, but it wipes out the entire screen out of all the enemies and all enemy bullets. And so there's a benefit in that. And I feel like this is going to be a very good modifier for the beginning portion, probably the first third of the game, because as you level up, you always get 1 health back. And so it kind of makes the modifier more usable in that sense, whereas later on in the game, you're not going to be leveling up as much anymore, and that damage output isn't going to be as significant, you know, at the latter part of the game as it is going to be in the beginning. So right now, if you look at the side over here, you've got some variables that you can change. So I've set up like 1,000 damage points that you can give to all the enemies on the screen when you execute the Divine East Wind. It takes 7 seconds to load up. And if you're hit while you're loading or charging this thing up, it'll go back to, you know, the beginning. So you can't be hit while you're charging it up. It's kind of a risk reward system that also punishes you. So we'll see how it balances out. But I really like the visual effect of this thing when it goes off. I'm using a specific kind of shader that I found from, I think, Godot shaders. In the charging sound, I actually used Bitwig to create it, and I think for now it's fine. It could be better for sure. It performs the function well enough. So this is the Divine East Wind. And yeah, we'll see how it works in actual gameplay once I get more of the level done. And that's exactly the next thing that I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be working on the second half of the first level. I've already created some massive mega asteroids structures for that whole portion of the level. And yeah, I hope to be able to get a lot more done a lot faster than previously. But like I said, it seems like my life's burning down right now. So as much as this can be therapeutic for me to be able to just kind of like focus on developing on something and not worry about stuff that I can't affect in any which way, there's also a limited amount of energy that I do have. And so I want to spend a lot of that energy also with my kids and my family. They're really important. So yeah. Anyway, that's about it, guys. That's almost 16 minutes of yapping from my side. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I'll have other videos coming up a lot sooner now. I'm going to try and just do these things a lot faster, not using such elaborate setups and so on, because, you know, oftentimes it's just, if you can just sit down for like maybe 45 minutes, you can just speak out all the stuff you want to get out and then, you know, move on with editing the video and get stuff done a lot faster. Sometimes making videos can take so freaking long. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you're working on your own projects, you know, finding joy and fulfillment in that. My name's been Chris. You've been watching TechDad Impact. Hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace out.